What's up, guys? We are back again with episode 2 of season 2.
We
Um,
have seasons.
yeah, this is our second season.
Okay.
We're
Got
recording.
seasons.
Yeah, we have seasons, as any show does.
Fucking seasons. This isn't traditional media.
We're recording this post-election day,
Yeah.
a couple of days. So
The election happened a few days ago. It hasn't been one day.
I said a couple
It's
days.
like it's been one big long day
Yeah, it's been a
since Tuesday.
long lot of years. So
Well,
yeah.
let's go ahead and get into some news. So, like we probably told you guys this last time, but our goal is to take one or two or three topics each one of these podcasts and kind of dive into them from our perspective, maybe bring on a guest and get their perspective. But a lot of it's going to center around CPG and food and restaurants because that's what we do. So the first topic of today, Megan, that I would love to get your thoughts on is Keurig Dr. Pepper has turned on the M&A machine again, and they have acquired Ghost. For those of you who aren't familiar with Ghost, are you familiar with Ghost?
Like briefly.
Briefly, a little
Yeah.
bit. So Ghost was founded in 2016. It's a lifestyle sports nutrition brand. They got an energy drink. I think that's what everybody sees. They see the
Yeah,
energy
that's
drink.
what I've seen.
We got a bunch of other stuff. Their logo looks like that Ghost logo. Maybe Megan will put that up on the screen for this. I don't know. Interesting deal though. Like you don't see a lot of these. They only acquired 60% of Ghost, and they predetermined what they'll acquire the rest of it for in 2028. And there's a bunch of other random closing conditions, and it seems like it's a really good deal. But man, acquiring 60% of the business, and what did they pay? They paid a lot. 990 million. That's a lot.
For 60%. Do we
Yeah.
know what the future set upon?
No, nobody knows. They didn't announce
Okay.
that. But it looks like it's about 3x net revenue. So pretty standard multiple in CPG. I think we're back to like normal valuations. For a good high growth company, someone who's doing something that can't be disrupted. But yeah, I mean, do you think this means that people are going to start buying companies again?
No, I don't.
Oh, good.
Maybe I'm pessimistic.
Our exit opportunities are limited.
um, when was this announced? Like last week?
The
Like
24th,
very recent,
the
right?
October 24th.
You know, I don't have an explanation for the timing of it, but I think it's probably not an indicator of, what's going to happen.
So you don't think that the M&A market's going to heat up again?
No.
We're not going to get any more crazy acquisitions.
No, I think things are going to get a little bit worse in general before they get better, and I think people will be pretty hesitant about acquisitions still.
I have a different take. I think that it's going to get a lot better. I'll tell you why.
Why is that?
I think that with every acquisition I see, the more and more it becomes just like generally accepted that, regardless of like if they are taking a lot of risk or if they have the money or interest rates are good or bad, it seems that the strategic acquirers are acquiring because they can't innovate to save their lives. Like, I don't think it is. I mean, this isn't a knock on people that work at like big CPG companies, but I don't think there's a lot of like innovators at like Nestle. Sorry, Nestle.
Doesn't Nestle have like a specific department for that?
No, it's General Mills.
Oh.
And I've talked to some people in that group. They
Yeah.
have entrepreneurs in residence. I'm not going to name names, and no one knows who I talked to, but I'm just going to say, generally, overview is their take. The people that work there is that they're not creating any meaningful innovation. And by the time they could, then some startup has already gone and like done the thing.
But do you think that consumers are really demanding innovation in the CPG space?
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you why. I don't think they're demanding innovation with food. I think people, the long term trend that we'll probably see over the next like 50, 100 years is now that we solved like the problem of starvation on Earth, like more people are fat than are starving. I think we'll start to move away from processed food and back toward whole foods,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to really, really pressure farmers to innovate and like people in like the food science space around like preserving or genetically engineering like whole foods so that maybe the shelf life is better, they last longer, the supply chain is more effective because people seem to want to eat better.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. Um, I think that brands just age and then people don't want to buy it anymore. Like I think you have like a little bit of a hype cycle with brands in general. And so this is more of like a brand question and I think a little less of like a true innovation question because you're right, like there hasn't been a lot of innovation in the grocery store. I mean, are there any things that like, were not around when you were a kid that are around now?
There's lots of things, but are they like staples of households? No. Like that I can think of?
What's the only like I can think of one.
Like in
All
our house?
almond butter. No, and just in
Oh.
general.
Well,
I think
yeah.
like alternative nut butters. Because
Hmm.
in the 90s we didn't care about kids that had peanut allergies. We just killed them.
Oh, I don't know what happened with nut allergies, but I think they've like,
People started to care. They care about your nut allergy. They're like, "Oh, I see
yeah.
where this is going.
But
We
for
should
the
stop
most
killing
part,
kids."
I don't really see innovative products being a staple in households. Like when I look at our pantry, for example, and we're like conscious of what we buy and what we feed our kids,
That just means we buy
but
more Whole Foods though.
yeah, we do. But when I even compare to like me growing up, being in a house who did not care
Megan grew up in Kentucky.
or pay attention,
That's all you got to know.
it's like the products are mostly the same. Like,
Yeah,
are consumers really demanding innovation? I don't know. Like, we buy Magic Spoon instead of Fruit Loops, and that's
Magic Spoon's. I
different,
think
but
Magic Spoon's a good example, but that's also a good example of like trend following. So like, in general, because of the health trends, like people are more into protein than they ever
yeah.
have been. Um,
What do you think this acquisition is doing for Keurig Dr. Pepper? Like, what is it
it's
doing to
giving
their
them.
product line that they didn't have covered
So
before?
it's not. I think it's adding to the product line. They talked about it in the press release, but like Keurig Dr Pepper owns some. They own some other energy drink brands. Um, yeah, I mean they're trying to get into the energy drink category, and when you look at the drink space, I mean you really just have in non-alcoholic beverages, you really just have Coke, Pepsi, Keurig Dr Pepper. Somebody tell me who I'm missing. I'm sure I'm missing someone, but there's not. It's not like there's a lot of players. And it's a very hard category to exist in. And then you even have the alcoholic brands that are trying to have more NA, like AB InBev, but like they own essentially every brand on earth.
Yeah.
There's just not
So
a lot
you
of
think this was a
players.
play to just get into the energy drink space?
Yeah, and also it just speaks to the like larger trend, which is consolidation. That's why I think the acquisitions will continue. I mean, at least in the CPG space, we haven't had Lena Khan like blocking acquisitions. Like she blocks everything else because she's a piece of shit. She's gonna lose her job though, so here we
Oh.
are. But yeah, I mean, there hasn't been a lot of blocking in the CPG space, not that I remember, over the last 3 years, and even other than that, I think it's just really an interest rate environment thing. But I do think there's like a larger trend of consolidation, and I think we as founders understand kind of why. So you run a physical product business, whether it's food or cars or anything else, you have to eventually get liquidity because your business will never generate any
Yeah.
if it's growing.
I mean, I hope it heats up. I hope it becomes a thing. Um, I just am hesitant to say that it will because I think there's a lot of challenges with, specifically with innovative products, there's a lot of challenges with acquiring them.
What do you mean by that?
So, like, if you're, I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I just can't. Like,
It's just bullshit. Just say pretend
if
example.
you were a peanut butter company, you only make peanut butter, and you decide to acquire a big almond butter brand, you're not already doing that.
Yeah, true.
You
You play in the category though.
And almond butter would be a product that's more expensive and maybe is about to get more expensive depending on where, the almonds are coming from. And so if you're the biggest peanut butter company ever, do you really want to acquire the almond butter company that's going to present a bunch of challenges?
I think you still do because of scale. Like, I mean, I've even made the case to you before. Like, acquisition is like not. It's not even off the table for someone like in our area. It's actually easier now than ever because the one thing that has happened, and to your point, is that the big CPG players seem to not be interested in acquisitions under 100 million in revenue.
Yeah.
So if you're a person who's running like a 10, $20 million brand and you actually like what you're doing and you get some like an equity sponsor or something, you can go out and acquire people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. There's not a lot of scale there when you're just kind of acquiring other people. You've got to be like really believing in the thing.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our next topic, which is the tariffs. Since you decided to bring that up. What is your perspective on what the tariffs will do to the good old CPG industry where we import lots of our stuff? I mean, we personally import a shitload of chocolate since they don't grow that in the United States. Do you think there's going to be exceptions for things like chocolate, which can't be grown in the United States?
Well, first off, I don't know exactly what the process of actually implementing these tariffs would be. Like, I don't know, is it something that really Trump can just go in and say, like, this is what we're doing and it happens? Or,
well, I mean, he has both sides of Congress, so yes.
But
it has to be a law.
With that being said, just because Republicans control both sides doesn't mean that, like, Trump Republicans control both sides. And I feel like enough people would understand the economic consequences of tariffs that there would be some kind of like watering down.
Yeah, I mean, I think the short term consequences are bad, definitely, unless there's exceptions. Like I said, like if you had an exception for cocoa, you can't make cocoa here. The beans don't grow in the United States.
Yeah.
Unless you have a cocoa tree in your backyard, and in that case, like I'm sorry, but you're an exception. It's hard to grow cocoa in the United States. It's probably shit too. Mm-hmm. If we're being honest, your cocoa sucks.
I just also like I don't understand why we would want to make it like a universal thing.
I think
with all of our important partners, like why do we want to discourage trade across the globe?
Yeah, so I'll steel
when
man
it benefits so many people.
I think the goal of the anti-globalists or like the populists, and this is a like common theme around the world right now. Like people are becoming more populist in every country, more nationalistic. Like hopefully Germany doesn't, but we'll see. And usually that means you want to like keep your shit at home, which means less exporting and less importing, just less trade in general. And I think what would happen if you threw up tariffs like what they've proposed, which Trump says he's going to do, and there is a theory behind it. The positive theory is like short-term pain, long-term gain. America is kind of poised to like be its own self-insulated thing. Like we have a very large country with a lot of people. We imported a lot of people that hopefully we don't deport all of them. That's also really helpful for what I'm about to say. So like if you were to impose tariffs, you would just encourage the businesses that weren't currently shoring up their supply chains here because it's just Like, say maybe you're just not motivated. You're like, I could build my plant here, but like they've got a co-man in like Bangladesh or wherever. Now you're going to be motivated to bring it back here, and he's going to offset that cost and expense to you with tax credits, and lower a lower general tax rate, because he said he was going to do 15% for American businesses making stuff here. So then you have to say, like, how long will it take, and what will the offset look like, and like, does the capex on a whole new factory in the United States actually get offset by a 5% drop in your income tax? And I mean, my answer would be no. I don't think it does. I think the prices get passed on to consumers, but then like, you've seen that with made in the USA goods for years. Like, you have to pay a higher labor wage here, and translates to the higher cost of goods. Labor wages have gone to the moon in the last 3 years, especially in the United States. So
Yeah, and if we do simultaneously deport what would be considered the cheap labor that's in the US, then I
yeah, you
just
could
can't
see some
even
inflation for
I
sure.
can't really even imagine the percentage with which prices will go up for consumers.
Yeah,
Like,
and then but the steelman argument is, if you look back at COVID, had we already implemented that before COVID, we wouldn't have experienced the shock that we experienced, because our supply chains would have been in the United States. Or for the future, and this is terrifying, if you went to war, and all your stuff was being made here, you go to war with anyone at any time, and it wouldn't really affect you at all. In fact, you'd probably be more powerful than ever. Like,
yeah.
if you were completely energy independent, which the United States is, um, if we build more power plants at the same time as bringing these plant factories back here, which that's not easy. So there's a lot of ifs. Like, if you build the plants, if you put solar panels on everyone's roof, if you support the grid, if you brew the tariffs, and if everything actually works out, then like, if you were to ever go to war in the future, you wouldn't need the rest of the world. You'd basically be like, we could shut the borders down like we did during COVID, not let anyone in or out, and pretend like the rest of the world's on fire and just ignore them. You could do that.
Yeah. I
Is it
think
prosperous? No, it's probably anti-prosperous, because you're leaving the rest of the world behind. But they have an America First policy, and I think a lot of Americans are really sick of globalism.
yeah.
I, on the other hand, don't care, because
I just think that consumers are not necessarily thinking about how much it's going to affect their costs. Like, think about like coffee, for example. Who doesn't drink coffee every day? Everyone drinks coffee every day.
yeah,
How many
yeah.
people are drinking coffee from the United States?
Zero. They don't make coffee beans here.
Right.
It's
So,
another good
like,
bean
do
that's
I
not grown
want
here.
my now $5 cup of coffee to be $10? No, I don't. But will it be? Probably.
Yeah, unless they make exceptions for coffee beans and cocoa beans and all kinds of other beans. But
Well, they would need to make exceptions for a decent amount of
a
things
lot of
because,
agricultural products.
but also for quality. Like, America doesn't make the highest quality of all things. Like, you don't buy American silk
No,
for
because we
high
lost. Yeah,
quality
we
clothes. You don't buy American leather. You buy Italian leather. It's like there are so many things that we outsource and import because it's higher quality elsewhere.
yeah, but if it's higher quality, higher name brand, they're going to expect higher prices anyways. I think that,
But like, how much higher can it go?
I don't know. Here's the thing that's the counter to even the
And
argument you're saying
what
now.
if those places decide to just stop selling to the US because Americans are like, well, this is too expensive and I don't want to buy it anymore. And then,
Well, then we lose access to the stuff, is
yeah,
what it is. I would say that the next counter to your argument about it affecting working class people is it will actually give working class people higher paying jobs. So, for instance, like Henry Ford, when he created the Ford, um, I kind of call it like his flywheel of growth. This like well known, Henry Ford paid the highest possible wages to the people working in his plants, because he knew those were the people buying the cars. And so he couldn't sell more cars unless he literally employed the people and gave them the money to buy the cars. It sounds like a Ponzi scheme. It
mm-hmm.
kind of is. It's the way capitalism works, though, without globalism. So, like pre-globalism, like pre-1975, um, we're still on the Bretton Woods system, so gold's still backing the U.S. dollar. Manufacturing is pretty localized. It's not globalized yet. It's definitely nationalized. You see similar things when like the railroad was invented and or really became like highly used in like the 1880s. It's like a lot of people lost jobs because like you didn't need like one blacksmith per town anymore. Instead, a blacksmith could service a much larger area. So people get into making more money because they're actually taking jobs manufacturing items that are higher priced, and then like it actually
Or
creates like a golden age. Or
the one thing that was not a factor
oh
in
yeah,
all of those other times
Megan
is
knows where this is going.
automation and AI. If
Yeah,
I was being forced,
to build a plant here.
I'd immediately build it with the highest budget for automation and AI usage, like to where I had to hire the very
Yeah,
smallest amount of people possible.
so they won't get their jobs back.
Right.
And I mean,
So
honestly, if you're
then
making a
who's
capex,
gonna buy the expensive
well, you
goods?
were going to have to make that capex investment even if you stayed overseas. And so, really, who do these laws benefit? They benefit me, the working man. I don't know about that.
Definitely not the person that Trump tries to appeal to.
Yeah, I
The
mean, if you're running a
problem is that
manufacturing company and you're paying 15% income tax at the highest level, which let's be honest, like you're gonna do what I do, and you're gonna do the large depreciation takes, and you're gonna keep buying new equipment, and you're gonna do whatever it is else you need to do to like game the tax system, and you're gonna do it on leases, and you're gonna pay even less tax, and so you'll have like basically giant corporations paying absolutely no income tax and making the most efficient products they've ever made and using AI to slash more of their workforce overhead. And then
yeah.
you'll have a large group of unemployed, angry populists again. And then they'll
And then
vote out Trump and vote in some clown and then vote out that clown and vote in some other clown while they still continue to get screwed by basically both sides and all politicians.
and then
I'm
the
going to get rich.
poor people will get more poor than before, and the expensive goods will not be bought by anyone. America will become less healthy because cheap stuff is less healthy. That's just the way it works.
Well, that's not the way it works. There's less demand for cheap stuff, and there's less supply, and it's a whole thing. There's a supply chain problem with healthy stuff.
Well,
like organic food, there's a supply chain problem.
Right. But that makes unhealthy food cheaper.
Yeah, but that doesn't always have to be the case. You just have to increase the supply.
Well, supply chain.
I don't think we'll get less healthy. That's a ridiculous statement. We're not going to get like unhealthy.
The lower class, you don't think they'll get? No. You don't think they'll buy McDonald's more because the stuff that they want to cook has gone up in price?
No, I think we're going to like move to a system that like slowly over time, the same way that we became like really unhealthy. I think the supply chains and like the overall like direction of shit will slowly move into the like we're going to just be supplying a lot better food to people, which allows us to supply everything at a lower cost. But
I mean, I think the stuff manufactured here already is a lot of packaged, not good food. And the prices of that are not going to change, whereas the prices of higher quality stuff or produce, which most of which doesn't come from the United States anyway, is going to go up, which means people who can't afford to buy that fresh whole foods that you're speaking of, I mean, I'm sorry, you're just not going to grow more avocados in the United States.
Yeah, you have to have like, more. You have to have more innovation in the foods. I already said that. That's a headwind that would happen. Like,
but tariff, more innovation costs more money, and I see a lot of negative effects, and I think the people who want that to happen are thinking of it from like good, like
they're thinking of it from a
China is putting bad stuff in my kids' toys, so let's charge them more. And
yeah, well, it's mostly just a strategic perspective because it encourages manufacturers to bring things back on shore. It's like you'd be able to like turn on the tank manufacturing faster.
Isn't going to benefit the people who voted for Trump because they're not going to get jobs because of it.
No, it will benefit a very small group of people, but it'll also make us safer as a nation. So if you want to pay for that safety with a tariff, then
why do you think it makes us safer?
It makes it strategically more insulated. Like it actually does make us safer. It's what China's been doing for years. If you keep the shit in home, like the plants and the energy and all the stuff, then if you ever go to war, this is why war is an outdated concept though, because like where's the last time you were like, yeah, let's go to war? Like it's just like it's a thing that we should, as a global society, be attempting to move away from, because the less war you have, the less people do dumb shit like this, and then the less you'd have to deal with like this kind of issue where like globalism provides the ultimate form of prosperity in the future once everything is settled.
Something else to think about is, do you know what percentage of, I don't know exactly how to word this, like what percentage of exporting
Goods,
American
net
goods?
exports.
Yeah.
We don't net export. We net import. We bring that shit here.
I know that. I'm saying, do you know like what size our export market is?
Of us sending shit other places,
Yeah,
it's pretty big.
right. So what I'm saying is a potential consequence is that
Oh yeah,
because we impose
it's a trade
tariffs
war.
upon these other countries, they decide, okay, well, it's really cheap to manufacture in my country. So either one, I'll cut off my citizens to your goods because I already do that with so much stuff anyway, and we will stop importing from you, or two, we will impose the same exact tariffs upon your companies.
Yeah, that is kind of null, unfortunately.
But then what if it's like,
No, the reason I say it's null is the products currently that we export are mostly natural resources, and a lot of fertilizer and like things for farming.
so you think the companies who manufacture things that
Most of the other ones
they have manufacturing in the other
so
countries already?
if you go to China, they tariff the fuck out of our goods already, and they also require, like, there's a reason Elon built the Tesla plant in China. Just throw it out there. They wouldn't have allowed him to sell Teslas in China.
Yeah, I'm saying, do you think those companies who are already exporting a lot already have manufacturing elsewhere to where it wouldn't affect them?
It's not going to affect them. There's, even if someone attempts to declare a trade war on the United States, it's null because they've already been doing it to us. It's the only thing that Trump says that's completely true. It's like they've already been fucking us pretty hard and not playing by the globalism playbook. And the only place that really played by it anymore is America.
So you don't think that
Sadly,
they'll take any action when we impose
there's nothing to
tariffs
take.
against
It just
them?
won't have any impact.
Higher tariffs?
They've already been doing that to us. Like,
Stopping importing of our goods?
I mean,
Like,
China already doesn't let Google and Facebook operate there, and we let TikTok operate here.
but what
It's
about
hilarious.
places like European countries and stuff?
The bigger markets. I mean, Europe. I don't know what the protections are that the EU has put in place, because that's, now you're talking about just the EU, because it's like they're actually who we trade with. I mean, like, yeah, because there's only a few players, right? Like, you're talking about like the BRICS countries, the EU, and that's kind of it. Like, that's like the whole world. Like, sorry, rest of the world, you don't matter.
Except for coffee, when it matters.
Yeah, the BRICS countries export the coffee to us.
Oh.
Like, or Mexico. I'm sorry, I forgot about Mexico and Canada. I'm so sorry. You do exist. You're in the same area as us. Mexico, Canada, Japan, BRICS, the EU, and then that's the whole world. And like, we don't have situations with any of them that are friendly for our imports at this moment. Any of those countries, they can impose more taxes. They could try to go to a trade war with us, but they won't. They need the stuff they do import. They need, like, or they wouldn't have been importing it from us, because it is expensive to get things from the United States. But you know what you need
I
from the
would
United
argue
States?
that the EU
Food.
doesn't need American cars. Like, they produce enough cars there.
They do produce a lot of cars there.
Like, there's exceptions. There's
yeah, but
some
Trump
things.
made it at this point, and I don't know if this is true. When he was on Joe Rogan, he said that there are no Fords or GM cars in Germany. And I'd love someone to fact check me on that. But
I mean, why would there be when Germany makes the
well,
best
now
cars in the world?
And now you're making
But
an argument for Trump's policies.
I've seen them elsewhere.
Yeah, France isn't gonna.
Well, do you not want to have German cars in the United States anymore?
No, I'd love to have German cars here. What's
It's
gonna
like
happen? Well, what's already happened? Most of the car companies make their cars here.
I don't think German companies do.
Yeah, they do.
Who?
BMW.
Volkswagen?
Yeah.
They make their cars
buddy.
here?
Yeah, it's in Chattanooga, right down the road, where we make our cookie dough. I hire people from the Volkswagen plant, by the way. You're looking for a better job with more funds.
Leave the factory for our factory.
Leave that factory, come to mine. I'll pay you more money. That's not true. I'm not going to pay you more money. Are American cars allowed in Germany?
Oh, you think they don't allow them?
Yeah, there was like this bullshit that Trump said that's probably fake. No, American vehicles. It just said are American vehicles. Google, you idiot. You can import your vehicle if you. Okay, now it's asking me if talking to me about imports. You have to have like 12 months of living there to even import your car duty free. So that's. I'm
But
already imagining.
you would already find a restriction if you weren't allowed to have
be
them.
Sold. Yeah, they tariff our cars. Tariff on the cars.
You're allowed to have them, right?
Yeah, but they tariff our cars. We don't tariff theirs. That's his thing. I don't agree with it because I think it's all stupid. I think Germany should drop their tariffs. Quit being a bitch. Quit being a bunch of bitches. Drop your tariffs. Let the American car companies sell their cars. The idea that we all should have tariffs is stupid. And instead, there should be no tariffs, no borders.
I think other places...
We should embrace communism.
European countries having tariffs from our goods just doesn't affect their citizens as much because the government provides so much for them. It's like... That's not the case in America. And with the Trump presidency, you're talking about cutting more social programs. So you want to cut a bunch of social programs and make goods more expensive at the same time? We
have to cut spending in this country, and I don't care who does it. And the only good thing about Donald Trump being president is that Elon Musk is really the president, and I pray to Elon every day that he will send down his blessings upon this nation.
Thinking that billionaires are thinking about the general population of the United States is just ignorant. It's not the case.
No, I think Elon... thinking
about what affects them.
Yeah, I think Elon and like those people, the libertarians that just kind of got into power via Trump, none of them are technically politicians. Let's hope he actually listens to them. But the libertarians that just came into power do care about the American people, but in a way that's longer term thinking. So like all the things they want to do as far as like cutting costs are for the benefit of the American people in the long run. Whereas like Trump, Kamala, and all these other politicians that were constantly promising to spend, which, I mean, you probably won't, you'll probably get exactly what you want. They'll probably spend away all our money and keep spending until, you know, there's a giant hole in the ground.
You could cut back spending without cutting social programs. You could actually cut back spending on the things that don't help American people, like oversee wars that we're not part of.
Yeah, they should do that. Cut
back spending, and oh my gosh, that's a lot.
They'll definitely cut that. They'll cut a lot of other stuff. I'm just saying that, like, I wouldn't be mad at those people. They should cut. They cut fucking everything at this point. But the longer term view, what were we just talking about?
How cutting social programs at the same time that you make everyday goods more expensive.
Oh yeah, we're comparing this to Europe. We're comparing this to Europe.
Not to mention you're gonna
Europe's a shit show, man.
You're gonna cut lower class citizens access to health insurance at the same time.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Europe's a shit show. No offense, Europe.
And America's not?
No, not compared to Europe.
I disagree.
Economically speaking, like the prosperity of the people, like the quality of life. We disagree.
The quality of life and the prosperity of the people in European countries is on a much more equal playing field.
Yeah, because they have oligarchs, people that have been rich for like centuries that stole all the money and won't give it back. And the normal people are cool because they're like, we have free healthcare.
Yes, the normal people
keep our mouths shut.
Are taken care of.
Yeah, you take care of them so they don't get mad.
People in America are not on the same level.
Do you hear that? How bad that is? Like,
it's not bad because they're
take care of them. They'll keep their mouth shut and they'll let you run. Like you get in your yacht, you get in your yacht on the Mediterranean, and you know they're not riding in the streets. They get to go to the hospital for free.
Right.
And you get helicopters.
Their basic needs and human rights are met, which is not something that is the case
So
here.
they're cool with the billionaires running things.
Yes.
Yeah,
because they're
weird,
getting
man.
what they need, period.
It's rough.
That's not the case in America, and when you make goods more expensive, it's going to get much worse. If you cut off people's access to social programs, like the ability to eat food, and you cut off their access to healthcare, then you're really screwing people over. And you know what's going to happen? Long-term vision over. Because 4 years from now, a completely opposite mindset gets elected because the mass is sick of being
that's the problem.
sick.
Well, that's the problem with America in general. Like the
there is no
elections.
long-term goal. If you want your visions to come true, you have to be slow with them. You have to work your way towards it immediately. Like Elon said, crashing the economy is what they're going to do.
Oh, 100%.
You don't have enough time to crash and recover the economy before the next presidential election, which means your vision and your reason for screwing up tens of millions of people's lives is done.
Well, it might be carried forward because, like, what could happen and what probably will happen is the private sector will do really, really well if they cut government spending. And we'll hire people. The bear case is definitely that AI will disrupt that and prevent those people from being hired. But we'll see. We'll find out what happens. I'm not particularly worried one way or the other because I'll be fine. But the only reason I'll be fine, and I'll stress this, is because I don't live in Europe. It's the last time you heard about a European founder like come from the slums. It even happens in India. You know where it doesn't happen? Europe. The last time there was a European founder, somebody check me on this. European founder, happened. They sell their company for a bunch of money, they're living on a yacht. It doesn't happen unless they're born rich because Europe works that way. They are like, they're not upwardly mobile. They're not downwardly mobile either.
It's probably because their needs are met. Like I
but you see, like
said,
we would
they
both
don't
be
have
poor.
The people in Appalachia living off of dirt.
They got Appalachia people.
Like it's so different.
There's poor areas of Europe.
I don't think you understand the difference in the American like.
I understand the difference. It's that you eat what you kill here. Like I am doing fine. I mean, was I born into that situation? No. So, like, I was able to like make some stuff happen.
I think
someone's gonna say, Jimmy, you're white and you're a man. It doesn't count.
Yeah, the benefit of Europe is that maybe you have to be born at an advantage, but you're not born at a disadvantage. And there are tens of millions of people in the United States
you're an immigrant. Then you're born at a disadvantage.
I just said born. Yeah. As in born in Europe at a disadvantage.
Well, what if you're born to immigrant parents?
In Europe?
Yeah.
You're not born to a disadvantage then. In America, there are tens of millions of people who were born into disadvantage. So maybe we have upward mobility because we have to. Because there's people
I think it's just
fight for their right to life.
No, I think it's just the way we set up the system because people are also downwardly mobile here.
Yeah.
It's basically you have to perform. It's kind of like the rent's due every day. I just ripped that off of somebody. There's a like goon influencer that says that all the time, but it's true. Like you have to actually. There's no like resting in this country. You can't just chill. You have to like constantly perform from the day you're born to the day you die.
Yeah, and if you're one of those people born at a disadvantage, then it's even harder.
You gotta perform. I would argue it's not harder.
Not to mention our education is so bad.
Yeah, that's
especially compared to other parts of the world like Europe.
Not true.
Yes, it is.
The education system all over the world's trash.
Look at the rankings.
I don't care about the rankings.
Are uneducated.
That's ranking a bunch of
dumb compared to Europeans.
That's ranking a bunch of idiots. Like
maybe we should start importing all the Europeans with upward mobility and export all the Americans who want to live on social programs.
So we should export our stupid people. I'm in favor of this. I vote yes.
If we're in favor of
let's deport.
Then yeah.
Let's make a trade.
We're gonna have a quality of life here.
It'll be like a sports team. We'll trade them.
Yeah.
Like I'll trade my clowns for your people that really want to make something happen. Then we will enter a golden age.
Anyway, I think there's a lot of negative things coming. Only time will tell.
I'm gonna stay positive. I hope the most positive aspects of this presidency happen, and I hope the negative aspects don't. The negative aspects are probably going to be like, I mean, there's no way they fuck up the economy. It's not going to get fucked up. It just can't.
I think that is a guarantee and will happen pretty quickly. But my hope is that most of the stuff that they want to do, they just will not be able to do through various reasons. I don't know what's going to stop them, but I hope there's things to stop them. And then in 4 years from now, it was a nothing presidency, and then we get to elect someone else. That's my hope.
My hope is that they actually accomplish the economic stuff because I want to see the like stuff happen.
I don't want to see an angry mob of people who can't take care of themselves in 4 years.
I don't want to see those people either. We should deport them. That was mean.
Yeah, that was mean. I'm gonna have to cut that out.
Oh my god! No, don't cut that out. Don't cut that out.
You will leave
That's how I feel.
because men who say things like that have a voice now. So.
Good God.
That's the country we're living in.
I'm not bad. What I am is.
You are not bad compared to.
No, I'm 100%. The problem is I'm 100% a libertarian. I do think that the libertarian ideals that Elon is pushing, if they are brought into Trump's camp, are good. Trump is not a libertarian. Do not pretend he's a libertarian. Do not get stupid and start thinking like this guy who spent. The fuck did he spend in the last presidency? Some absurd amount of money. And like none of the stuff, like he's the one behind Operation Warp Speed. Like I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying it's not libertarian. Like you don't develop vaccines, and RFK and Elon and a lot of these other people are libertarians. They used to be Democrats. The only reason they're in this presidency is because the Democratic Party lost their mind. And we'll see if they actually have influence over Trump, because I don't think Trump's very smart. So he's influenced by a lot of people. If they're more influential with a dumb guy, because that's what he is. He's just a talking head. He's a clown. He gets up on stage. He clowns around. But like back behind the scenes, if Elon's the one calling the shots, we're going to get a libertarian president for the first time ever. If the other people are calling the shots, oh my fucking God, we're screwed. We're completely screwed. Like if the people that wrote...
He needed them to get elected, and then we'll kind of slowly drop them off.
Yeah, but he's not going to drop everyone, is my point. Like, he won't drop every... Like, one of the factions of that party, hopefully it's not the people that wrote Project 2025. Hopefully it's Elon. They're going to get control of the White House.
Yeah, I don't think that...
One faction of the Republican Party will get control, and if it ends up being this new faction, which is the Libertarians, which... I mean, some days they're Democrats, some days they're Republicans. I think that the biggest flop the Democrats have had in the last 20 years has been losing the Libertarians. Because all Libertarians, including myself, used to just be like, yeah, I'm all about the Democratic Party all day long. Like, sign me the fuck up. Like, free speech, anti-war, like, don't go to Iraq. Like, what happened? What are we doing? What are we doing? Sad.
I think
sad. Pretty easy to get him back. That's all I'm saying, because Trump's going to fuck it up. But
I think it'll probably be something that flips back and forth.
It doesn't have to flip back and forth.
Do weird things.
Just doesn't have to flip back and forth.
Well, libertarians haven't had a home before, so it makes sense that they would flip back and forth until
yeah, but they found
party was mainstream.
Shit, man, they found their home. Like,
well, that's what they had with the Democrats too, and with the way.
Yeah, but there was never a Democrat. There was never a Democrat in the White House.
I don't think the Trump presidency is going to be a libertarian presidency, and if that's the case, I think there will be like a flip-flop next time.
Yeah, if it is a libertarian presidency and like my wishes are granted, then we're going to enter a golden age.
Yeah, I think based on the other people in the Republican Party that are elected specifically to Congress, it won't be a libertarian presidency because those are elected officials.
Yeah, but you got to look at like Elon inviting Ron Paul to do the thing with him, like. It could happen. Ron Paul's isn't Ron still in the government?
I don't know. I don't think he's still in the government.
Let's find out. I think Ron's in the
out of it.
Ron's got to be there still, because that's like his thing, man. Ron Paul, former. Oh yeah, it's former. So. His kid's still there. Rand Paul's not a libertarian though, right? Or
Rand Paul, no.
would you say Rand Paul's a libertarian? I mean, he's got a little libertarian streak.
Republican.
And he's got a streak though. He was weird about the COVID thing. That's the things the Republicans, like the really stupid ones, like the ones that just vote Republican because they're Republican. Um, it's funny to watch them become libertarians sometimes based on what their like idols are doing. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite. So like during COVID when they were like, "Don't put a mask on me," I was like, "Wow, that's weird. You guys just went to Iraq like blind, like you're like put the blinders on, like, let's go, we're going in." But like when it came to a mask, like that was the breaking point. That's where you were like libertarian. That's what I am now. Freedom of speech.
It is funny. Yeah.
Like what are you talking about? Like it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I just
we'll see how things go.
I'm gonna hope for the best because I don't want to hope for the worst.
That I'm also gonna hope
be bad for me.
I'm gonna hope for a libertarian presidency where people's rights are not infringed.
Yeah, exactly. So. Like we just that is actually that's the funniest part about them being associated with either major party because wouldn't you say that both the Democrats and Republicans just have a little bit of a autocratic streak, little dictatorship vibe?
I think
they like to take rights away. That's their favorite
because they think it's what's best for.
Yeah, they're psychotic. That's what they are. They're psychotic and un-American, and there are two major political parties. Here we are. Hopefully they change because I think the people don't like it. That might be why Trump won the popular vote because they're just desperate for someone to stop.
Less people voted.
Yeah, definitely less people voted. So. Yeah, no, the people basically boycotted the Democratic Party. I mean, based on the voter turnout. So like.
Less Republicans voted too.
Yeah.
It's like all across the board, less people voted.
Yeah, but I think a large majority. I think the only reason Trump won the popular vote is because there's a big sect of people that were really hoping for the libertarian thing, and are really really sick of the government attempting to tell us what to do. And this is the opening for a third party. I mean, I don't see either of
parties for sure.
I just don't see either of the current parties evolving to the point where they're actually democratic. Like they both kind of represent this weird, gross thing that's true in American politics, which is that we don't live in a democracy. A lot of the people in the parties don't really care about the average person, like Megan is saying. Like neither. I would say that taken at face value, neither of the last. Like we haven't had a candidate. I don't even know. Like I can't think of a president that cared about the average person. It's sad, but it's true. I like not one of them. Like you could argue with me about it, but like the reason they were more like they're more interested in foreign wars and like these weird globalist conflicts and like
sometimes you can do both though.
Yeah. I mean, Obama passed the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's a domestic policy.
Presidents can do both. He was bombing the heck out of people, but he did give Americans access to healthcare.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, I think things will change.
Did Bush have a domestic policy?
Probably like tax cuts.
Oh yeah, he created the Department of Education. Which is funny because now his party wants to get rid of the Department of Education.
Anyway.
Fascinating.
Okay. We're going to wrap things up. We'll see how things go. We're going to be optimistic, but in the meantime, I'll be researching some other countries that we can move to in case shit hits the fan.
I want a summer in Italy every summer. That's what I want to do. Like that's my rich person wish. I want a summer in Italy and spend like 8-10 weeks there, live in a winery, like not in a winery, like in a vineyard, like a place where there's grapes, so I can eat the grapes and I can just basically be drunk every day. Like I want that for me in Italy in the summer, and then I'll come back here and I'll work, but then I'll take some time in Italy and pretend I'm Italian. I'll learn Italian. It'll be great.
All right. Well, feel free to comment and let us know your thoughts. We'd like to hear them.
Yeah. I mean, I know like most of you guys in the CPG community are like blindly liberal, so I'm excited.
I don't think so. Based off of what I see on LinkedIn, it's
really?
pretty typical.
Is it split? Is it split?
It's split.
Split?
Yeah, you got prominent figures like Mark Samuel, who's very conservative, very obviously. And then you have the more young people who are kind of like more on one of our sides. Most of the women are on my side because that's, if you're outspoken as a woman these days, you can only be on one side because the other side doesn't like outspoken women. So we're going to wrap it up now.
That's amazing. Let's talk about this next time.
Okay.
Let's talk about how people hate women.
Oh,
Amazing.
we're gonna go now.
I thought Mark lived in San Francisco.
Well, that's probably why he's conservative.
Well, then he's not conservative. He's a San Francisco conservative person. That's different.
I think if you support Trump,
Bro, move on down to Georgia. Or not Georgia. Move on down to Alabama.
Yes. Then
where
you'll shift back to the...
You'll be so fucking liberal so fast. I live in Tennessee.
It's not a bad thing.
It keeps me based. Tennessee and Texas are based. Tennessee, you live in Austin or Nashville, and you're never going to be weird. You're going to be right in the middle the rest of your life.
I know some weird people on both sides, by the way. Okay, we're going to sign off now. This has been long and...
It's so much fun.
Wild, but we'll talk more next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.